Hello everybody and welcome back to the first news show in a long time. This week we'll tackle all that's gone down with M10 in the last month, my opinion on the rules changes, and what the meta will look like come July. So let's draw. Beginning with damage on the stack, it's clearly the most unsettling with the death of Monk Fanatic, the dissuasion of thousands around the web who threatened to quit the game, the displaced name of a podcast, but looking past all that, is it something we'll adapt to? My answer is, of course, yes. In the near future, players will come to think of damage being something that just happens in the same manner that they think of when a creature's toughness is 0, it's supposed to die, and that lands just come into play. A friend of mine, Cheeseman, walked into the local shop one day and commented on how he would have to quit Magic now on account of damage not using the stack. I told him it wasn't necessary, and in a few moments he was convinced this change was actually good. Just think of what Magic would be like if lands used the stacks, I retorted. We would have essentially the same effects with slightly different wording on the cards. The only difference is that it's one extra thing to teach a new player. With damage not using the stack, now we can still have a new Mog Fanatic that uses a static ability, it'll just be worded differently. And of course encourage people to buy more cards. One of the aspects of Magic, or anything with its deeply complex nature for that matter, is that you can begin to understand a part of the grand whole, and while it isn't necessary to your personal play that you understand the rest of the whole yet, you can, one day, take the next step and learn more. Over the past week, I taught a good 27 people how to play the game while away, and it all began with explaining the simple processes, which is to say, all they needed to know to begin playing. Explaining that they draw 7 cards, that there were 5 colors of Magic, and that they use basic lands to play spells. Branching off, you get into playing your first game, with actual mana costs, summoning sickness, and instant speed spells. It is from here that Magic requires a special type of person to pick up the torch of knowledge and start running with it. This means discovering more aspects of the game to learn. One of the most complicated has always been learning how abilities stack. Understanding the last thing on first one off thing isn't all that difficult, but the visualization involved gets tiring at times and pushes people away from the more complex aspects of Magic and, thus, more competitive play. That said, something no one's really noted is the, quote, dumbing down of Magic. Way back at Worlds 2007, we talked to Elaine Chase, and one of the notable educational aspects of Magic she noted was that 30% of the top SAT words are on Magic cards.
If you look at the top SAT words, out of the top 100 SAT words, something like 30 or 40% of them are actually on Magic cards.
During the age of the 306 base cards in Time Spiral block, 14% contained the top 100 SAT vocab words. However, in Lorwyn, only 9% contain these words. In Shadowmoor, less than 11%, but in M10 so far, only 6% contain SAT top 100 words. I realize that this is an incredibly small part of the game, which I will receive much ridicule for in the comments. One of the other reasons I've always liked Magic is because... hey there, Yu-Gi-Oh! Well, one of the reasons I started playing Magic over Yu-Gi-Oh! Was because of its complexity. Listen, Magic just has more of a complex system that involves a wider variety of dominant decks and has a wider variety of places to make mistakes and arguably better plays. Come back in a year or two when Konami's got your playing system worked out in a couple of tournaments. As for mana burn, this can go either way. Flavor-wise, which is to say, if you are such a powerful planeswalker, why wouldn't you be able to properly empty mana from your mind? But on the other hand, if you're stupid enough to access the mana, shouldn't it burn your mind in the first place? And mechanic-wise, it's really meant for a Teps deck that just wants to take the risk to storm for 12, then with the desire, and burn the extra rituals and songs. Mana burn has always been a small annoyance. When teaching new players, I saw at least 10 people get confused over why, when they tapped extra lands, people were saying they lost life. Third and last on the side of rule changes are the things that have become more realistic in play and purely good. Obviously, Exile sounds lots cooler than removed from the game, and functions better with the cards actually being in the game. The simultaneous mulligans are purely good for the sake of time. The allowance to swap out a basic land for a bum card is great, but a spectator being able to tell you to wait? Only half as much. Obviously, this is because one of those long thinking moments and will be usually good, but overall may just lead to a tad more frustration than necessary. However, the most notable floor rule change that's going to be one of the greatest rules changes in history is the ability to use notes in sideboarding. As Forsyth explained, this makes playing rogue decks a whole lot easier, and one aspect of Magic that I've always been a huge advocate of is that Magic is a game of calculations, and not so much memory. While memory is important and will come into play when considering the vast possibilities of what your opponent can do with a 374 card possible pool in Alara Sealed, or what a random deck at an extended PTQ could be playing, it shouldn't be necessary to mull over what to board in and what not to in one of 15 possible viable standard matchups. Onto the spoilers, the only one I consider detailing first is the insanity that has wandered upon red. In the current metagame, blue is still the most played color, followed by white, followed by black, followed by green, and with red at the rear. With M10, blue gets the dumbing down it always needed, while still having 3 2-mana counterspells to play around with for at least a little longer. Red, of course, gets the Lightning Bolt and Ball Lightning to provide for a possible non-combo 4th turn win, and white gets just enough of a boost and drawback from losing 10th edition to play even with blue. While so many argued over what appears to be the death of control with the lack of Wrath of God and any real good instant spells, but it's clear to me Wizards is making it possible for every color to be aggro, mid-range control, or perhaps in the near future combo as well. This creates a meta that is slightly matchup based, and more importantly, sees who's the best Magic player is and not who's playing the strictly better cards. On that note, just saying, but even if Wizards hasn't obsoleted any card in a while, save Shock, they sure got a hell close with Serra Angel. Okay, so it's got the same mana cost, and it's a 5/5 with flying, first strike, lifelink, and protection from demons and dragons, and the only trade-off is that it doesn't have vigilance, yet its 2 commonalities rarer. Almost reminds me of... But anyway, about the other spoilers, here are my predictions. Silence will see play in a new control deck with Wall of Frost and Wall of Denial that manages to be reactive long enough to beat your opponent with card advantage and maybe a Lightning Bolt or 2 in Justice Control in WotC's new movement to make every color be able to be control and aggro in one manner or another. White will become a color that manages to be both masterfully reactive and proactive for a little longer with cards like Elite Vanguard, Captain of the Watch if you can play him in the right deck, and even a utility card like Safe Passage because of how much everybody likes instant speeds things. And Planar Cleansing will see play with the ability to wipe the board despite being 1 mana or so overcosted. Blue will still be played as the second most color next to red or white because everybody will still forever love its wacky and unknowingness with the instants and whatnot, but will be, if nothing else, equalized by white, red, and green with great cards like Great Stable Stag, the Return of Overrun, Protein Hydra, and speed with cards like Elvish Archdruid. Doomblade will be a better terror because the regeneration is never as relevant as the artifact creature. Rise from the Grave will be played in something that needs a creature big enough and can get it before the 5th turn, like a Doran or a Whitley Fleege. And Duress and Haunting Echoes will see major play if the rack really does return, as it's rumored to do so, but about 20 to 40% less than if it doesn't. As for red, well, Ball Lightning, Lightning Bolt, Ball Guard, and Hellkite and Siege Gang Commander seem pretty good. As for Kalilis, nothing too major, but seeing Darksteel Colossus again should be, if nothing else, really interesting. Of course, the lands promote a slightly slower format with less colors in the deck, but as for M10, the only things I'm really not looking forward to after examining all these changes in depth is, well, getting twice as many tips and tricks cards as tokens. So until next time when we cast the spell for 0, this is Anthony Palmario, tapped out for now, but we'll untap soon.